Our top 3 tips blogger edition. We have Organize Your Home Office for Bloggers from Melissa Klug of Home by 11. I'm so excited to introduce y'all to Melissa. She is a professional organizer and she is one of less than 500 people who's certified by the Marie Kondo. And she's the creator of the Overwhelmed to Organize Blueprint course. She believes that if you declutter your house, you can totally change your life. So here are her 3 tips, and stay tuned at the end for a little freebie that she has for you.
Tip number 1. This is a tip that I give people all the time, but it definitely applies to bloggers and how they set up a home office. I want you to throw out the rules. So the reason I tell people to throw out the rules is a lot of times when it comes to our house, so our home, our apartment, wherever it is that you live, we think that there are a lot of rules attached. Well, I can't use that room for an office because it's the living room. You can use your house however it works for you. So as an example, this is my office and it used to be my dining room. And I realized one day we use our dining room one time a year. It was on Thanksgiving, and then the rest of the year it looked very nice, but it wasn't functional at all. So I said, we have an entire room in our house that we never use, and I really need a good office space. So I turned this into my office. And here's what I did. So this table, it goes from dining table to actual desk. I can do a stand-up desk or I can do a sit-down desk, whatever works for me. And the other awesome thing about this room is I now have my own space for all my stuff. I can leave the room when I'm done working for the day, but it still looks nice and functions in the rest of our house because I tried to make it look cool. So, a couple other things about this room that made it super functional for what I do for a living. I do a lot of videos and webinars and things like that. And the great thing about this room is when I put this table in the center of it, I now have 2 different places I can do Zooms from. So I usually do Zooms here with my decorated shelves, which is awesome. But guess what? I can flip my computer around to the other side and then I can give this view of the other side of my office. So it sort of makes it look like I'm trying to mix things up when in fact it's the exact same room. So please throw out the rules. If you have a room in your house that is rarely, if ever, used, why not turn it into your office? If you need a dedicated space for your work, it's a great idea to use that footprint of your house wisely. Tip number 2, paperwork. If you struggle with a paper monster, you are not remotely alone. My clients struggle with paperwork all the time, and so I want to give you a few tips and tricks on how you can conquer the paper monster. If you have a paperwork pileup in your house, a couple of things that I want you to do first. The first thing is sometimes people keep pieces of paper forever and ever and ever and think that they have to keep every piece of paper. We tend to keep too many pieces of paper. So what I want you to do is look at all of the paperwork that you have, for instance, in your office, and say, is this an actual piece of paper I need to keep and file, or do I just think I need to keep and file it? Rule of thumb on paperwork is you need to keep tax records for 7 years. Then after that, it's really up to you and your risk profile as to what else you feel like you need to keep. Obviously, legal records, court documents, your deed and your title to cars and homes, things like that. So very, very important documents. Obviously, keep those documents, birth certificates, social security cards. But what I find with a lot of my clients is somewhere along the way, they were told by a mom or another relative that you have to keep every piece of paper that comes in your house. And that's just simply not true. So what I find is sometimes I have clients hanging on to paperwork for an oil change that is from 2 cars ago, from 15 years ago. You can get rid of the paper. So the first thing I want you to do, if you have the time, go through all the paperwork. If you can only tackle it in your office, totally fine. But really take some time and go through all of your paperwork and say, what do I actually need to keep? The second thing I want you to do is then develop a filing system that works for you that you will keep up. The other thing I see a lot with my clients is they say, oh, that pile of paper needs to be filed. But that pile of paper that needs to be filed is sometimes 3 years old. So keep up with your filing, develop a system that actually works for you for filing. What I typically tell people is try to devote 1 day a week. And by the way, I don't mean the whole day. I just mean, let's say it's a Sunday afternoon and you're willing to devote an hour to say, I'm going to go through all the mail from this week. I'm going to pay bills. I'm going to action on anything that needs to be actioned on. And then I'm going to file anything that needs to be filed. If you keep up with it on an every week basis, or every month, whatever works for you. But if you keep up with it, then you don't have those huge piles that need to be filed. Keep up a filing system that actually works, and really ask yourself, do I need this piece of paper? For instance, if you are going to say, well, I have to keep my cell phone bill, when was the last time you referenced that? When would you ever envision yourself referencing it? Could you get it online if you needed to? And then my favorite question is, what is the worst case scenario? So let's say you really need this thing. What is the amount of work you would have to do to get this information? In most cases is you'd probably have to make a couple phone calls, or you'd have to get your login information and go online. Is it the end of the world if you don't have this particular piece of paper? We are drowning in paper, and most times people don't even use it. The second thing is you can create a file that is a current file. So for instance, if you have something that comes in and you say, I need to action on that in the next 7 days, you can have a 7-day folder, you can have a 30-day folder, and you might have a 3-month folder. Whatever works for you in terms of timeline, but try to divide those things up and then action on them when you need to. In terms of storage, I am very minimal when it comes to paper. So I keep all of my paper in this cabinet, and here's what I do. So this is what works for me. You have to do what works for you. I have over here in these magazine holders, I have my office supplies, paper, that type of thing. And then all of this is my active paperwork. So I have it divided up. And one of the key things about this is instead of having it in a pile this way, I turn it this way. It's on its side. So I can file through, I can look through all these papers and know exactly what they are. This is a legal document for my business. This is an envelope that I need to open for my financial advisor, for instance. I know exactly what those things are. I can rifle through them, look for the document that I need, action on it, file it or shred it, which is what I usually do, and then move right on. So conquer the paper monster. You will be so happy that you did. Do you have office supplies all over the place and they're kind of all running together and you don't really know what you have, and then you go out and you buy more office supplies because you think you don't have something, but in fact you find out later that you do? Totally understand. This is a very common problem that people run into. Here's what I want to tell you about organizing supplies and then drawer organization that will help you eliminate the, oh, I need to go buy it again syndrome. The biggest tip I can give you is things need boundaries. So one of the biggest reasons that people get disorganized when it comes to actual drawers and supplies and that type of thing is because they start to creep over and your Post-it notes get mixed in with your paper clips and you start to not really know what you have. So your things need boundaries. Creating boundaries and then creating rules for what goes inside those boundaries is a great way to stay organized. And I want to show you one of my drawers just as an example. What I mean, this is my office supply drawer. As you can see, it's decently minimalistic. I do not judge if you have 14 times this amount of office supplies. This is what works for me. You do what works for you. When I talk about boundaries, what I mean is I want to give things a box or some other thing that holds them in place so that, for instance, I don't have all of these safety pins running around my drawer. And I know exactly where my small Post-it notes are. And the thing that most people struggle with, I know exactly where all of my electrical cords are. Okay, so this is not a beautiful Pinterest-worthy drawer, but guess what? I know where all my cords are. I know exactly where my iPhone cords are. I know where my extra charger is. I also know if you ask me to do a presentation tomorrow, the dongle for my computer is right in there. I've got my mailing supplies over here. I have got everything in this drawer and I know exactly what I have in here. Giving things boundaries is a huge way to stay organized. Little extra tip, if you want to be nerdy like I am, you can actually make a spreadsheet that shows inventory of what you have. You can just do this in a note on your phone or something like that, but then that also prevents you from saying, oh, do I actually have any Sharpies? And then coming home and finding you have 200 Sharpies. Now, I want to tell you something. You can go out and you can buy organizational supplies if you want to. Like for instance, I do like acrylic boxes, so I bought an acrylic box for this. But a little tip, these Post-it notes are stored in my AirPod container. Any Apple product has a really good box. These boxes right here are nice black boxes that were repurposed from my microphone that I use for doing videos. So you do not have to spend a ton of money making your drawer look beautiful. You can make it functional and use things that you already have in your house. I will give you a little tip that I use for a lot of my clients. Shop inside your house. You always have solutions right under your nose. So this is what I mean about creating boundaries around your things. So throw out the rules, get your paperwork in order, and then create boundaries around the things that you have in your drawers. And I promise you, it will make your home office a little bit easier and a little better to live with. I can tell you that getting organized is a major, major game changer. And I can tell you this because I spent 4 decades of my life as a super disorganized person. I turned it all around pretty massively and then ended up becoming a certified professional organizer. You don't have to go quite that far, but I am here to tell you getting organized makes a huge difference. It reduces stress, it reduces anxiety, and it makes your workday more efficient, and it allows you to do all the things you want to do. So as you're growing your blog, as you are growing your business, you can do all the things more efficiently and in less time if you have an organized space. I am excited to provide you with some extra tips and tricks, and I can't wait to help you out. See you soon.
Melissa, those tips were incredible. If y'all want more from Melissa, she has a freebie download for you about organizing your office and office adjacent items. You can go to the link in the description of this video for that. You can also get connected with Melissa. Go to her Instagram, and there's a link to her blueprint as well for how to get more organized in your life. And you can also find her on Facebook, Home by 11 professional organizer, or Instagram at home.by.11. Thank you so much, Melissa. This was amazing.